Excellent. And I'm really pleased to introduce Dinesh as part of our TADSummit Innovators. Dinesh, how are you?
Good, good, Alan. It's nice to see you again. I've been and look forward for a great TED Summit this year too, you know.
Exactly. I'm really excited that Dinesh will be presenting. They have a product they're launching, so he'll be announcing that at TADSummit. So that's going to be exciting. Now, as you know, Dinesh, I'm a big fan of all the work that you've done over the years in, and it's something that we see telcos increasingly doing today as well. So at TADSummit last year, we had Uniphonic explaining how they take a country by country approach, creating a moat that's defensible within, say, Saudi or within another country. And we've started to see, for example, this year, Deutsche Telekom in the work that it's been doing with SignalWire, with its programmable comms platform, doing something that works within Germany. So as a result, they were able to win virtual queue away from Twilio. Again, taking a country focus. So yeah, I've always been singing the praises of what you've achieved with Ideamart. So I was wondering if you could give us an update on what's been happening there, as it's over a decade old now.
Yes, yes, I think it is. I think it is. I think but TED Summit is also a kind of a decade
Correct.
now.
Yes,
Yeah, so I
exactly.
think we launched it, Alan. I think is at the same time, but the
Yes,
first TED Summit was going on. Yeah, so I think you actually put the nail on the head. I think the most important, especially when it comes to VAS and VAS related, I
yeah,
think programmable comms, I don't think you can have one thing that fits all. I
exactly.
think, like you said, I think you're spot on when you say if you look at Sri Lanka, Ideamart, which was 10 years ago, now we have both Ideamart, we have also M-Space, which actually done. So the platform, the same platform that we are doing is run by all the operators in Sri Lanka.
Yeah,
And what you have seen is over the decade, you have seen innovation happening for that particular geographic needs. So, when you have, I mean, it's like I think, the whole thing you mentioned is making programmable comms easy to
yeah,
be accessed by even non-developers. So
exactly.
we see that when there is a sporting event going on, they would create something for that particular sporting event, run that, promote it, finished, you just kind of close it down. So it's not that you need to spend years and years building an app, getting it onto the App Store or to the Google Play Store and getting that. So that is happening in here. And we see the same thing happening even in Bangladesh, which we are actually working with the all the telcos there again. We
Excellent.
see that, and if you look at, we thought as developers, right, we all have this idea about if you do something here, we can very easily go and port it to another country, they'll do that. But I think that's a myth.
Yeah,
It's all about what is relevant to that particular country and also to a particular geographic in that country also. So what's happening in Dhaka is not what is happening in other places, right?
yes,
So we are, I would say, I think just to kind of summarize, I think we ourselves were surprised that this had steam for 10 years. I think
yes,
because if you really look at SMS, is actually, if you look at peer-to-peer SMS, I think is almost non-existent,
yeah,
right? Because WhatsApp over the top, whether it's WhatsApp, Viber, all of that has
yeah.
kind of taken. But still, when it comes to the the services that are being provided and these kind of services, I think that is still growing.
Exactly, exactly. Because the thing that impressed me, again, we see some of the CPaaS players talking about, well, we have no code as if it's something new, and you were doing templates a decade ago. So I think that shows you rode both horses. You've got the APIs for the hardcore developers, but then you've got the easy to use templates. It's a web page that you can just basically, as a small business owner, say, I want to run a marketing campaign that
That's
I
right.
can, at the end of the day, just let my local customers know that I've got bananas on sale for cheap.
That's
Simple stuff like that.
That's right. That's right. So I think that we have seen, and you see this in most of the countries. This part you have this what are called internet centers. Where
Yeah,
kind of they go in because not everybody has
as yeah.
printing and all that. So these centers they actually encouraging for the small business owners saying that oh yeah something where there's a new crop comes people actually
Ah,
uses that to kind of spread it out to people, telling, okay, same thing that you mentioned. So
yeah.
it's very much,
Interesting.
I think what you mentioned before, I think those are the modes because what we
Yes.
realized was that people started having loyalty to an operator because of some of these services that was provided.
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
created that particular mode. And like I said, I mean, we thought SMS would be dead. But I think it's declining, but on a separate line, it's actually kind of a growing in some of these specific areas.
Exactly. Within the A2P space, there's still growth there. P2P, exactly, because you can't be charging for basically such a small, few bytes of information. And
That's right.
so IP messaging has had a significant impact, but for businesses, because it's pervasive, it still runs. And I mean, even 10 years ago, I remember some of the analysts were predicting the end of SMS. So
That's
it's
right.
one of those that people that aren't living in that mode keep saying, "Oh yeah, it's going to end soon. We have IP, it's all free," and it's not. What matters more is pervasive and being easy to use. So, as we look into a little bit more detail within Ideamart, what are some of the shifts that you've seen, and maybe the use cases, or has voice, or WebRTC, or some of the other technologies that have been on offer come to the fore?
Yeah, so interesting you talk about WebRTC. So, I mean, we thought WebRTC would take off, at the initial stage. And so we build platforms and stuff like that. But I think I would say it's the ease of use is what was the problem, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had, I think we were one of the first to launch the doctor consulting
Yes.
thing before. Right now, maybe it was a little bit ahead of time at that time. Now you have doctor consulting apps that are come, but not using WebRTC as the channel. They are using other, more video and stuff like that that's available.
Yeah.
But said that on the both Ideamart and on BD apps and MSpace and stuff
Mhm.
like that, we see the most increasing from an apps perspective is still information that is there. Still we talk about joke of the day or that kind of stuff, which we
Yeah.
thought will not be existing because
Yeah.
but I think it's the convenience is
Yeah.
that WhatsApp message you may get 20 all these things, but it's not end of the day. But here you get one, so you have some very loyal. If you look at our top 20 revenue generators, I mean they are generating a decent revenue,
Yeah.
which is all related to this kind of both alerts thing. Mostly like some are doing surveys, but I
Mhm.
think more than that, I think it's a lot to do with alerts and things like that,
Gotcha.
which is still growing. And
Mhm.
and these are things that they actually put together as a small, quick app.
Yeah.
You put it out. You just use your Facebook to promote it. People just subscribe to it. You authenticate it on that. So one of the things that have actually grown, I must bring that, is a lot of governance had been brought by telcos.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So what happens with VAS, and this is something that we have governance models, but now I think there are more models being built to not to scam users.
Exactly.
So that's something new we see actually that it's more and more coming in because now you need to kind of every I think it's 45 days you send you get a message that you have been subscribed to these
Gotcha.
particular apps. If you want to unsubscribe, you can do that. So there's a lot of that is I would say it's coming from more from a self-governance standpoint than the regulator putting it and climbing on that. So the same thing is we see, I think the similar thing, both, I would say it's a very similar demographic if you look at Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and,
Yes.
some of the others. So a lot of that stuff coming in place,
Exactly. I've always seen a very similar demographic with Nigeria, which of course is a far bigger country, but it never managed to take off. They kept taking the standards route of pushing one API and all the rest, while, as you quite rightly point out, you make it easy, you make it secure. So you deal with the fraud issues, because that's killing the A2P SMS industry in many countries now, because you've got, telcos are seeing revenues decline in A2P SMS, so they want to raise. The brands are looking on and going, well, it's SMS or it's email. And that's a big difference in price. So they keep wanting email pricing, and fraud keeps growing. So it gets, trust falls away. So I think it's a very delicate but successful balance you've created. Now,
and you need to be, because we have governance model automatically. People can do that. It'll lock applications. We find that repeat content being sent, we lock. So there's a lot. I think we have learned through the years of what people do to kind of
scammers are
scam
smart.
people.
Yep, they will find a way, and all you can do is react quickly. It's as simple as that. Now, one of the technologies that's been talked about for the past 15 years around messaging is RCS. Do you see that entering your vibrant ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, right? I mean, RCS, like you said, I think maybe even 20 years. I don't know. I mean, but Alan, I think I think it had multiple iterations, right? Yes. I mean, different ways, but it has never taken off from a scalable point of view.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You find this, you find more point solutions where somebody would do that and things like that. But to really scale, I think now we have kind of I think that bus, I would say, passed a little bit now with the whole thing with other rich media coming in, and integration of that is much easier, so it's so I think, in my opinion, we are not getting that much. I mean, very similar to WebRTC. I think WebRTC was one of the best things at that time. I think it just that didn't take it off.
Too complex. It's just too complex. Simple as that. Well, that's interesting that from your perspective, as you look at the other IP messaging platforms that are out there, and the fact that you have to support multiple messaging platforms. There's no way you can just ignore WhatsApp. If you're communicating with customers, yes, you have the ubiquity of SMS, but then it's, whether you hop onto RCS or you hop onto, WhatsApp, WhatsApp's the more obvious one because distribution is there. Now, of course, the whole industry is getting excited about, RCS again because of Apple, but we'll have to wait and see. Because they've got their iMessage strategy as well. So, I can see the more pragmatic approach as well. Hey,
but
SMS
it's still
works.
close, right? So Apple is that ecosystem within themselves, right?
Exactly.
So I think it's more North America based, and
Europe to an extent, because they will interoperate between Google, because RCS, iMessage, is it Gmessage, sorry, or whatever you want to call it, messages in Android, RCS based. I always, the anti-RCS folks, I always find funny when I'm saying, well, you're using RCS today. When you're doing, peer-to-peer with another Android user, guess what? That's RCS. Oh, and then of course we'll see, when Apple, join the party, it'll avoid, the MMS issue between, Android to Apple. So, and then how far they go on the rich business messaging, let's see. But I think, and I was having a chat with Robert Viz, the CEO of Bird, earlier this week. And, he was very clear on once the cat's out of the bag and Google and Apple are interoperating, why do you even need this whole layer of SMS? So I think, yeah, the future is a little bit more uncertain, but I think, yeah, again, it's one of the stories I love. When you were starting, there was this thing called One API. And well, that's the standard. That's what you should be using. And yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, whatever you want in One API, but we're going to do these templates. We're going to use these easy to use APIs. And of course, that was successful. One API went nowhere. And now we're in a situation where we have camera. And I position it as One API 2.0 because again, it's
a reincarnation.
Yes, good one. I should use that. But I'm interested from your perspective because I mean you're in the guts of the Southeast Asian market. What are you seeing happening around camera at the moment?
Yes, yes. So it's very, very interesting. So we do even have we have developed the One API platform for one of the operators in Singapore.
Yeah,
and they are live, they are connected, they're actually doing that. I think the important thing is, I think Singapore is the most advanced from this part of the world.
yes.
From looking at that, they are already launched. They are going to be live within the next 2 months or so with that. And so there is an operator push.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's a very interesting. The Singapore, I think the main of the push came because of the fraud that was happening through all the channels that was really coming in, whether it's, I think, like it's millions of dollars that had been scammed by,
yes.
so that's one of the push that came through. So the initial use cases that we see is about, like number verification. It's about looking at location based when you are doing withdrawals, whether you can use the channel to kind of see whether you're on that. So there are some use cases that they are from a perspective of seeing whether this can be adapted. But I think there's still the verdict is out to see whether this will kind of take off. I would say that what we see that there are niche, again, areas that I think can be applied, but for you to have a wider developer ecosystem to be able to build, I think it needs to, that's a little bit of a long way to go for that.
But I mean, it's because it's a little bit confusing from a developer perspective because number verification has been available for a decade or more. So it's there already. Location, again, it's well, location-based services. About 20 years ago, I was working on some of those. And then, of course, we have SIM swap. And again, companies like Telesign are leaders in that category. So I sort of look on and why are you standardizing something that's already available and have issues? Because SIM swap, one of the issues you have is whether your business support system can respond fast enough with to a SIM swap request because you've got a transaction and it's like and you want to confirm that this SIM hasn't been swapped for that device. You want it within transaction times. So it's like, a second or so, maybe tolerable, but sometimes it's a minute or more. Well, the vendor and the customer are not going to hang around waiting for a response. So there's some practical issues there. And I think Singapore is in a very unique situation in that they have nationwide 5G standalone coverage. That's unique in the world. nowhere else are you going to see that. Well,
MRTs, underground, all that. So that is the reason I think some of these are, because if you have an ATM machine in, two levels on the, you can still have signal. You can check, are you in that particular vicinity when you're withdrawing money? So that, I mean, you're spot on that with the uniqueness of Singapore.
Exactly, because that's why I think you will see network APIs, the sort of played with in Singapore because you've got the coverage. I mean, just, the Open Signal report that was done last month, or was it this month now? Recent, let's say just recent, the coverage of 5G for 2 of the operators in North America was around 10%. Now, T-Mobile was 65%, but that 10 to 15% coverage, connected to 5G, that's not that uncommon in Europe. So that's useless for most developers. They need things to be 100%. So that's, I think, why we'll see something may happen in Singapore. But again, the problem is developers aren't asking for it. I work with a whole host of developers, and they've been interviewed by some of the big vendors in the telecom space, asking them about potential use cases, and they see it's ease of use that keeps coming back. And I think the success and continued success and growth of Ideamart is testament to make it as easy as possible. So we're 10 years in. What do you think is going to happen over the next 10 years with Ideamart?
Okay. Yeah. So that's an interesting question, because even in our planning, we would never plan for this kind of at this point, right? So I think the interesting parts that actually are being thought and we are doing is that how do we bring in a certain part of Gen AI?
Okay. Yeah.
Into some of the Ideamart kind of a thing. So if you really look at, Alan, what has happened is that we have really monetized the network APIs, bringing it out onto the open, with this charging API, location APIs, looking at SMS and the whole API, right? So now if you have brought that up, what the Ideamart platform or no code, low code did was to kind of integrate this so that we would have a very seamless way of building this, right? So that was the thing. Now you take that to another step and saying that, okay, now you're going to bring in some of the Gen AI based, whether it's, customer, more productivity tools, whether some things that, because the plumbing is done.
Yes.
So plumbing APIs, you can very easily open up, right? Yeah. So if you can start building those together and bringing that out, you will actually see another what we would call a second innings of this platform getting grown in. So I think that's where we see we are actually spending a lot of time actually looking at this, thinking about it, doing some POCs right now to see that, okay, how do you bring that in? Because that I think would give with lot of, because if you look at it, there's a huge amount of data.
Yes, exactly. All the insights you generate.
Insights,
traffic for basically use within the services, but also use of the network as well. So you've got that two dimensions that you can correlate, so that you can then start offering some preemptive services.
That's right.
It's like we always have congestion here. Well, why don't we offer us this service so people can get around that congestion?
That's right. So a lot of the analytics, the data analytics side that are coming in, which can be really be brought in and give that insights to the developers. Exactly like what you said. Okay, we see that because there are about maybe 10 or 15 jobs related products on Ideamart. So when they want, when you want to, but those are very localized.
Yes.
Right, one location, they're actually looking for somebody, so they put it, and then there are people, whether they are daily workers, whether they are gig workers and stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff. So now you just imagine bringing some of that data and then kind of creating another layer and saying that, look, so you're actually going to bring some of that. So I think we are excited about the next part of Ideamart of using the data of 10 years. I mean, it's out of, and we may not know what the insights that will come out of that. So that's the beauty of data, right? We have no idea that what we're thinking, but the insights will come out, and that would help to be able to bring more and more services out,
Exactly. So it looks, for the next 10 years, maybe from the transport perspective, it's more or less commoditized. but all the insights and additional services around that analytics enables another decade plus. So it's a
That's right.
very interesting situation that you've created.
I think that's for me, that's where the telcos has the highest advantage if they know how to use it properly.
Exactly.
And then do it in a way that you still have your data protection, the governance and all that stuff in place. But now you can even monetize that because you have been collecting this data for umpteen years, right? I mean, you know exactly what is going on. And if they can do that, I think that's where the new, whether, you know, small LLMs that are going to come out and all these things. And I mean, that's a good opportunity, but it all depends on how smart or how
well, actually, it's starting really, really dumb. You know, don't rely on the LLM to do anything smart. There'll be a presentation from Vida. That's Lyle Pratt's startup, and they focused on very simple AI agent, not trying to do anything complex, just solving particular problems like scheduling of appointments for small businesses, understanding what services are available. You know, can you remove a tree? You know, a customer can just ask that and they can get an answer back. So it's dumb stuff, but it's use it in a way that's natural, that's easy for the customer, that's easy for the small business, so that they can improve their service. So again,
so I think that's more from a productivity improvements, efficiencies are going to be the initial phase. I mean, it's a very simple thing. You know, my just a couple of minutes ago, I was having a chat with my HR manager, and she said, Dinesh, you know, we normally send a thank you email for the rejections and say that we'll keep your resume on file and stuff like that. And we went and, you know, created the script, and I just cut and pasted it now. And as soon as I say, you know, the rejected, you know, it sends this particular thing, which would have taken us, you know, so much of time before. And she has no idea. You know, I saw the code, you know, that is being written. The script, you know, as a macro into a Google Sheet. You know, so I think we will see a lot of that kind of productivity. And if we can bring those things into a platform where people can build, you know, not to do these very high-flown things, but day-to-day activities that makes your life easier.
Exactly. And Ideamart is in a very unique position thanks to their partnership with you over the last decade. And it looks like a very exciting decade to come as well. So congratulations, Dinesh.
Correct. And we will actually talk about it during TADSummit, some of the new stuff we are doing with our products and stuff like that, how we are going to bring some of the complete omni-channel comms, you know, how that, what we see, what people are using, you know, combined with some of the, like you said, the agents, you know, the chatbots that are going to come out, which will be, I would say, the maybe not even 1.0, maybe 0.1.0 of that AI generation that's going to come. And then we all will be able to learn and build on top of that, you know.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, you know, there'll be some, you know, sort of major successes, I'm sure. And at the moment, of course, we've seen on the stock market the big reset around AI. But I think, again, it always happens. And then people start finding the little things you can improve on, and then they start building on that. So this is cool. I'm really happy for you.
We were there when the internet came too, right? And
the
all same thing, you know, they build and build and build, and then, you know, 99, 2000 came, and, you know, what happened, and then how the next wave came up. So I think we have lived through that. And it's like a repeating of thing. So yeah, I think it's exciting, but I think it's going to have some pain points too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But again, Dinesh, thank you so much for your time. This was really uplifting.
Thank you very much, Alan. And I want to thank you for doing this for a decade and actually working with developers, building the ecosystem, and you have been encouraging us and other developers. I know a lot of people will be very, very grateful for you, what you have been doing, you know. So again, thank you so much, and look forward to your TADSummit.
Great. Thank you, Dinesh. Bye-bye.